welcome back to Escaping Nightmares. I'm Jess,
And I'm Bree.
and today we are talking about serial killers that inspired horror movie. Some are classic ones, some are ones that you might have never heard from.
So, my very first one I chose is River's Edge, and that was a movie from 1986. And it was based off of a murder that took place in my hometown of Milpitas, California. This movie is about a teenager who kills his girlfriend and dumps her body in a river, and then brings his friends from school down to come see the body. And the movie is focused mostly on the killer and his friends, about like the morality of like looking at a dead body. And his friends are struggling with, do we go tell the police? We're scared to tell the police. That's kind of what the movie's about. And I was kind of shocked that Keanu Reeves is in this movie, a young Keanu Reeves. He plays one of the killer's friends. And he's kind of struggling with, do I go to the police? Do I not? I'm scared to go to the police kind of deal. But yes, so this movie came out in 1986. The real life crime took place in Milpitas, California in November of 1981. Marie Renice Conrad was just 14 years old when she was strangled and essayed by her boyfriend. There's some debate on whether this boy was her boyfriend or not. Having been a teenager myself, it's possible that she could have been dating this boy, but her family is adamant that this boy was not her boyfriend. So I'm going to go with the family because your boyfriend doesn't kill you. I'm going to go with the family and say that this guy was not her boyfriend. So he was a high schooler and she was a middle schooler. And being that this is in my hometown and I went to both of these schools that they went to, she went to Russell Middle School, which is right across the street from Milpitas High where he went. So Marcy Marie Connor was 14 in middle school at Russell Middle School. Her killer was Anthony Jacques Bissard. So her body was dumped in a ravine off of Marsh Road, and this kind of became lore in the town for the kids. I know I heard the stories about Marsh Road being haunted, about the dead body being there, and there's this like little bridge that goes over this small creek that was where she was dumped, and everybody used to go there and try and scare their friends.
I do remember that. I actually, funny enough, I do remember that because I think my cousin Andrew tried telling me you like creepy stuff and wanted to take me there, and I was just like, I don't know. It's the fact that knowing that somebody was there, I'm like, I think that just scared me. So I never did. I wanted to go, but I was always too scared.
When we used to go camping, when we'd go to cabin, that was Marsh Road that we would go to access that dirt road that goes all the way back out into the cabin. We would drive up the hill and then we'd take that left down this road that had like a bunch of trees hanging over it. So that was Marsh Road. And then there was like this tiny little bridge, very short, very small, that you would go over this little creek in and then you would hit the dirt road to go to cabin. That was the where she was dumped. Was right there. A little bridge that she was dumped under. His friends that he took up there admitted to like covering her body up and kind of gawking at her dead body. And I guess when the police interviewed them after, they said that they were afraid to go to the police because they didn't want to get into trouble. This, so one thing about the case that I didn't know was that Jacques, her supposed boyfriend, admitted to having relations with her body after he dumped her. That was the one thing where I was like, okay, that it's already really bad, and then to do that after she had passed was so bad. And like to know that they went to the same schools I went to. They went to Russell and Milpitas High, like both places that, that's where my childhood took place. And it's just weird to think that they like walked the same halls as me. But Anthony Jacques Bissard pled guilty and was sentenced to 25 years. And as of April 2023 he has been paroled. So he's actually out. I was disappointed because I kind of wanted to visit Marcy's grave just because I don't know, it's just a sad story and she's from our hometown, but unfortunately, she's actually buried in Wisconsin. Originally, she was from Wisconsin and then her family moved out here to Milpitas. So I guess he was considered kind of the bad crowd where she was this young girl hanging out with these older boys. And even though he went to Milpitas High, I guess a couple of his friends actually went to that continuation school where a lot of our friends went. So they all kind of met up and I guess they were like doing drugs and, being teenagers essentially. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the family and say that that was not her boyfriend because he like, I guess he had said that Marcy ran her mouth, and that's why he ended up killing her. So she was 14, he was 16. He killed her because she ran her mouth.
Boyfriend, like any, we've all had people that say stuff about us and doesn't, we're not going to go kill them. We're just going to be like, okay, they want to start rumors, go them. They have no life.
And even then, it wasn't that. I think she was just 14 and probably just messing around, you know? I mean, 14-year-olds talk shit on each other all the time. You know, she was probably just messing with the guy, and I think his friends had said that he would kind of had a little bit of a violent tendency. But one of the things I guess the director of River's Edge did change was his race. So she was white, he was black, and in the movie they're both white. So he changed the races because I guess he didn't want to like kind of stir up controversy.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Like, they want to get the story out, but they don't want to start, well, you're blaming it because of this.
Yeah, but that was a story I always grew up hearing. I didn't really know too many of the details, and I guess the saddest part too was looking at pictures of her. She could have been any one of us, any one of our friends. Like, there's a picture of her with the mountains in the background, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure one of my best friends from high school has that picture of her sitting there, and like, I have multiple pictures with those hills in the background. Like, it's like so weird. It's
Surreal, especially if you, when you know the place that the person's at, you're like, oh, I've been there all the time.
And she looked like us because she kind of looked like a little like punk kid. Like we were, you know, we were part of like the punk stoner kind of group, and she was like in that same culture in the 1980s as we were. And she would have been in our friend group. She would have been hanging out with us. I know, 14 years old. So sad.
Mine that I had, both of these you could watch on Netflix. Like, it's called The Good Nurse. It's about a guy named Charles Cullen that was a nurse for 16 years. That's how long his career was. And he killed over a dozen patients from New Jersey to Pennsylvania.
I feel like he probably killed way more people than they think too. There's no way, because you said how many did he kill? What's his body count?
Oh, yeah. His body count was at least they said at least a dozen. He's like, they only murdered a dozen patients without being caught.
No way. More. 16 years, he killed way more.
He would overdose them in their IVs, and he got away with it for years until he had a colleague that named Amy that caught on to him and was like, this is strange. Like, this patient's perfectly fine, and then he comes in and you're telling me that they all of a sudden the heart machine starts going off, like, and they die, they flatline. And just a nurse just starting out, she kind of had to shadow him.
And like the boldness of being like, this person shadowing me, I'm still gonna kill people. Like the audacity. Like, you really think you're gonna get away with it when someone's, you know, attached at the hip to you? That's crazy.
Because the little backstory too is because they actually had a little bit of a relationship. They didn't count how many people they killed while he was with her. That's how she was able to catch him, because she was like, this makes no sense. It's all his patients. And then she ended up doing research herself, found out that all his other hospitals he had been to, the same stuff would happen. And that's how she ended up catching him at the end, was she put on a mic, caught him in the lie. That follows up with the second one that I have, the Craigslist killer. So this guy, Philip Markoff, he was a medical student, and so he had a fiance. He had like a good life going. He literally looked like a blue collar A student. Everyone loved him kind of guy. He was really obsessed with the anatomy of people. And so that's what he started on. That's why he went on to Craigslist, and he started with the escorts. And basically, he would find an escort. He would kill them. A lot of the times, it was just strangle couple, but mostly it was just robberies and strangle that he would do to these escorts. And it wasn't until he got caught, and the way he got caught was because there was some camera video footage of him marching out of one of the rooms, and for the longest time all they had was like a baseball cap and like his structure. And he, at least like in the movie, the way he got caught was one of the escorts that he went to go try to kill was she kind of had a pimp, and so she would text her pimp when the dude comes, and she never texts the pimp. So the pimp basically came in and was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" and beat the crap out of this guy. And they thought that was just an assault. They didn't realize he had been murdering people. And then it kind of went to like his colleagues noticed a little bit, and I want to say at the end of the day, it was his actual fiance that realized that he was the Craigslist killer, because when the police, he was a witness, so when the FBI went to his house, they found evidence of his. Like, they found the underwear of the escorts that he took. He was really freaking weird, and he slept with like a book of the anatomy underneath his mattress. Not porn, not anything you would think of a normal person. No, it's fucking the book of anatomy, and then all the trophies of the underwear. And he got charged and went to prison, and in prison he ended up actually killing himself because he was like he had like a weird remorse of being like, this wasn't me. I didn't mean it. He like still wanted his fiance, and his fiance's like, you're crazy. But then the even crazier after that, on Craigslist, they took away exotic services. They're like, we're not having any more of those.
I don't blame them. I can't believe Craigslist even had that.
Me too.
What a wild time that was.
The best part about this is it was 2009. So I was like, it wasn't.
They still had escort. Oh my God. Actually, that actually kind of makes sense because I remember in the early 2000s, probably 2007 or ish, like when I was in high school, like YouTube didn't have any like parameters like it does now. Like you could kind of see a lot on there, you know? So I guess that makes sense that Craigslist was the same way. There was no protection on the internet until much later.
And I slightly remember hearing about this guy, but I wasn't that into the news. And I just remember, and then after that, I just remember everyone, that was what everyone said. Oh, you don't want to go on Craigslist. You don't want to get the Craigslist killer. But I never, I never really understood where that came from until I got older, and I'm like, oh. If I'm like another dude, this guy obviously he was probably, if he would have became a nurse, odds are he probably would have still been. He would have been the Craigslist plus the good nurse. Like he would have been both. So at least they stopped him.
All right, so the next one I've got is Wolf Creek from 2005. There's actually quite a few Wolf Creek movies, and this is about murders that happened between 1989 and 1992. They were committed by Ivan Robert Millant. He kidnapped, assaulted, robbed, and killed 5 women and 2 men in the Australian outback. So his MO was essentially to approach these backpackers and ask them if they needed a ride, and that's how he ended up committing all of his crimes. Um, Back then in the 80s and 90s, backpacking and taking hitchhiking was way more common. There wasn't so much fear around that when there probably should have been. So people were more likely to be like, yeah, sure, let me have this stranger take me somewhere. And then they obviously, these people had, you know, uh,
Funny enough, growing up, that's what my mom always told me. Because my mom hitchhiked for the longest time. I think, honestly, she's pretty old, but she still does. But I remember her telling me, she's 65. My mom, yeah, my mom is a whole different breed of independent, I do my own thing kind of woman. Like she really is. But but that's what she told me, and I remember being little and her picking up a hitchhiker, and he like got on the back of the we had a truck on the back of the truck, and I remember her telling me, she's like, it's okay to pick them up. She's like, but she's like, if as long as you get a good feel from them. If you pick them up and you kind of feel like something's off or creepy, then you just you don't get them. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, so you're telling me not to talk to strangers yet? You just picked up this dude on the side of the road, and we're just gonna drive him to town. Like she said, it was safe because he was in the camper part of the truck, but I was.
our parents were from a generation that just I don't know if they were just insane from all the lead paint, or they were just so not ignorant, but just so trusting of people. Because my mom was the same way. Like, I think she did all that shit. It's amazing because we're in California, how many serial killers were around back then in our area that both of our parents survived as long as, I mean, like, they were getting into strangers' cars, and uh my mom had a story about how she had broken down on the side of the road and someone had attacked her. And I don't know if the story is true or not, but she said that she had kind of longer nails and she had clawed at his eyes while he was attacking her. Um, and she like never reported the crime. And that's why when I started learning how to drive, so when me and my sister started learning how to drive, she was very adamant that we had cars that worked correctly because she was worried that we would get stranded and someone would attack us. And she always told me, don't let anybody take you away from wherever you are. Don't let anybody kidnap you. Like, always fight back. So, I mean, she eventually grew, you know, she eventually kind of got over that trust that the boomers have.
Yeah, but like you said, that it makes sense because it was that generation. Like, and I feel like a majority of people that I talk that are like would be our parents' age, they all say the same thing. Like, oh yeah, I have.
So this guy, he was known as the backpack killer. Uh, so a lot of the bodies that were uncovered had multiple stab wounds, like overdoing it, like severed spines. The heads were kind of detached. There were bullet holes. There was signs of severe beatings. Um, so he was captured and sentenced in July of 1996, and he was found guilty and was sentenced to life in prison, and he died in October of 2019 of stomach cancer. And so, being that they only found five that they could tie him to, they actually believe that he could be responsible for up to 58 additional murders. Or not murders, but murders or missing people that kind of went missing around that time in that area that they haven't found yet.
That's literally insane.
So almost 60 people he could have possibly killed, and he never admitted to any more. Yeah, I hope that stomach cancer really hurt when he died. Because I guess one of the complaints about the movie was a lot of people found the movie really violent and kind of brutal, which is one of the reasons why I've seen this movie, but kind of stopped watching it because I'm not really into like the torture kind of movies. I'm more into like monsters, and when it's real life people, it's too real. Especially being that this is based on actual crimes. Uh, I was one of the people that just didn't really want to watch it because it's really, I mean, obviously they're real murders, but the movie was very violent and very over the top, and you know, I mean, obviously his crimes were pretty bad too, but yeah, the movie that was one of the complaints about the movie.
It was just way too like Hollywood.
Yeah, it was just way too violent for a lot of people. It was because I mean, this stuff actually happened, so it's hard to watch. Like, yeah, they're actors, but like real people went through this horrible shit. And I think most people are probably a lot like me, where it's like, oh, I don't really want to watch that.
Yeah, because I've had a couple movies like that. They're based off not so much, not to get off topic. They're not based off the horror movies, but they put them based off like kidnapping movies. And when the individuals were held, and I'm like, I can't watch it only because I'm like this actually happened to someone. It's not fiction. It's not made up. Like this was this is actually talking about this person's poor life and what they went through, and it gives a whole different feel to it. Next one is Monster. It's about,
Eileen Wuornos.
and she was actually considered the first female serial killer. Her case is actually very interesting. She grew up in like a rocky family setting. I want to say her mom wasn't there. Her dad was an alcoholic. When she got older, she kind of just grew up feeling like she was not worth anyone's time. She wasn't pretty enough. She wasn't good enough. And so when she got into prostitution, she basically started to kill her clients because she said her clients were either tried, in her defense she said they either tried to rape her or they did rape her, either or. They either tried or they did. Something snapped in her and she was like, I'm gonna kill them. It was self-defense. And when she was on trial, she ended up dying on death row. by lethal injection. But at one time, when the judge was like, well, they asked her, would you do this again? She's like, yes, I would totally kill again. She was like, fuck that. She was like, they deserved it, so they're dead. I have no remorse. I'll do it again.
I think she just liked killing men.
I know. She might have just been a very strong feminist that just hated men and used that as her excuse.
Yeah, I think so. I think she had because of her childhood, it's hard not to feel sad for her, but then also like she did kill a bunch of people, but I really do think she hated men so much just from her background and her past relationships that she was just I think she just mentally snapped, man, and was like, you know, I'm just gonna go out here and kill these people and I don't care.
That movie Monster, because I feel like they really portrayed it really well. It was Charlize Theron, gorgeous. Holy crap! Did they make her look really run down? Like she played the part really well. Like, and that's what I liked about it. Like she delivered the part. They didn't over glorify it. They put it so basic, and actually, I feel like they did the raw of this girl's life. I feel like so many things could have changed that would have made her not a serial killer, but so many things lined up that it did.
Well, it's true. It's her psychology is so interesting because she kind of went out on the hunt, like how a male would. Most males, like serial killers, people who kill people, males go out on the hunt, and she did too, where most females don't hunt their prey like that. They will poison their family, or they kind of do kind of stuff that's more low key. They don't go out hunting like she did. So her psychology is just so unique.
And the judge is talking to her, it just looks like you're Kate. Like I'm done. I have nothing.
Do my next one. All right, so the next one I have is called Cannibal from 2006, and this was a German video, or German release that went direct to video. So I don't think it's streaming anywhere, and you've probably never seen it. But this case is pretty well known, so people probably kind of already know a little bit about it. But this was about the murder of Bernard Brandes. So he was killed by Armin Weiss. So Armin, he was part of the online culture where he would uh, talk to other men about wanting to be eaten online. And, a lot of people thought that this was probably just a little fetish or like a BDSM thing. But he was serious. He was online looking for a willing victim. And one thing that he had said was he never wanted to kill somebody who wasn't willing. So unfortunately, he ended up finding someone who was willing and was willing to go through with it. So yeah, uh, Bernard Brandes responded to one of his ads, and I guess they had kind of built a rapport online, and they ended up meeting in 2001 at a train station, which is crazy because I thought this case happened in the 80s, not in the 2000s. So I was like reading this, and I'm like, whoa, how how was this so recent? Um, So originally, Armin's the cannibal wanted to live with Brandy's for a while to kind of get to know him, and I think maybe form a bit of a relationship with him. But Brandy's was like adamant that he wanted to be eaten like right away. So they agreed that they would start with his male appendage first. So Armies tried to bite it off, but he was unsuccessful, so he ended up having to cut it off. They wanted to consume it together, but unfortunately, Armies, I guess, burnt the meat and it was inedible for them, so they ended up feeding it to the dog. And they described the meat, his male appendage meat, as too chewy to eat raw, so that's why they had to cook it. And he was willing. He wanted this. He wanted this to happen, and he filmed the whole thing. It was agreed upon what they would eat and that they would film the whole thing. So Brandy's said, "Well, if I don't bleed out, maybe in the morning we could have my other two male parts for breakfast, one for you, one for me." Um, so Armies laid Brandy's in a bed. And throughout the night, he'd get up and check on him, and eventually Brandy's did end up bleeding out and passing away in that bed. So in the early morning hours, he uh, collected his meat from his body. So, because he was filming this whole thing, I guess he had gone back and watched the video of him butchering Brandy's body, and Armies believes that Brandy's may have actually still been alive while he was being butchered. He says he thought he saw maybe him still breathing while he was on the butcher block, essentially, which is terrible to think about. So, he ended up eating pieces of his body over the next 10 months. He kept his body parts in a freezer in his house under. So it was a freezer that had a false bottom. So he opened the false bottom and he would put Brandy's body in there and slowly consume it. And in later interviews, Armies has said that he always felt really lonely as a child, and his dad actually ended up leaving his family one day, kind of went out for cigarettes and never came back. So he kind of had this weird psychology of, well, if I consume someone, they can never leave me. So in his eyes, yeah, he consumed Brandy's because he wanted him to be a part of him for the rest of his life. So Brandy's could never leave him. And I've heard that from a few other cases of like people like cannibals. It's kind of like this weird, like I've owned these people, I consume them, they're part of me now type of deal. So the crazy thing is that Armin did meet with multiple men who wanted to be slaughtered, but then would back out at the last minute when things started getting kind of serious. Um, and then, like I said, a couple of them thought it was just some kind of weird sexual fetish thing that they were just going to act out. And when he was like, "Hey, I've got this knife, let me cut you open," they were like, "No, dude, like I don't want to participate in that." And thankfully, he was like, "Okay, that's fine." So he would end up maybe sometimes having sexual relations with these people, but he wouldn't kill them. Um, so this went on. He was online looking for meat, I guess. And in 2002, a 23-year-old student had done a kind of like a Google search of, what did he say? It was he was searching horror and nervous thrills in a search engine, and he came across one of Armin's posts, kind of looking for a victim. And he asked, did you actually have you ever actually killed anybody? And Armin's was like, yeah, I did. He openly admitted that he killed Brandy's. So the student went to the police, and that's how he was eventually caught, was because he admitted online to this 23-year-old that he did kill someone. I mean, I have to give it to the guy. He was honest, and he never killed anybody who didn't want to be killed. I mean, killing obviously is still wrong, but he like had this weird kind of like Dexter style moral compass that I'm going to kill these people, but they're willing, and I won't kill anybody who's not willing. Yeah, I think it also ties back to just his dad leaving him and him feeling like this. He wanted a connection with somebody, and I think that's why he didn't kill anybody that was unwilling, because like he wanted someone to want him, so he wanted someone that wanted to be consumed. He didn't want to like force anyone into it. He was just, looking for willing victims. So, yeah. So he was arrested in December of 2001. And on January 30th of 2004, he was sentenced to he was sentenced to 8 years and 6 months. And in court, they argued that Bernard was mentally ill and Bernard was a willing victim and Armin was mentally ill. And that's why he got such little time. But yeah, so in 2005, a retrial was ordered because it was found that he was still fantasizing about consuming people. So he was retried and he was resentenced to life. He got life in prison in 2006. And he's in a psychotherapeutic prison for life. Um, so, yeah, in some interviews, he said that people taste like pork, but better. And he said that he doesn't think that the average person would be able to tell if they were eating human meat or not. They would probably think it was pork, which is a very grim detail that I wanted to share.
It's one of those things I can honestly say I'll never know because I'll never eat a human. But I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I'll take his word for it. Like, thanks for sharing. But I'm like, yeah, obviously, I don't know anyone that I can go and clarify that with.
Yeah, and I remember I did when I took a psychology class, I actually wrote a paper. Um, I don't recall what the reason was for this paper, but it was basically a paper on, we had to write a paper on like a fetish, which is such a weird, I don't remember if this was a psychology class or a sexual education class.
That was sexual education because I remember I had to write something like that too.
Okay, yeah, in college. So I ended up doing it on people who fantasize about being eaten. And so I did some research on this because of that. So I kind of knew about that. But it is a fetish, but most people don't act on it. They just think about, like, they fantasize and they act out they act out the act without doing the act. But it was interesting because this guy inspired a lot of other media. So um, his crimes inspired bands like Rammstein with their song Mein Tell. They also inspired Marilyn Manson, which with his song "Eat Me, Drink Me," and he's also mentioned in a lot of TV shows. One of them was It Crowd. I have Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Hannibal, an anthology series called Room 104, and the weirdest one was he was mentioned in Gilmore Girls.
Like how?
So I guess there was a scene where like their taxi driver is upset because he responded to an ad about being eaten and he got rejected and he was like upset about that or something. It was like a taxi driver or somebody they lived with or something like that. So I just thought that was really weird.
That's so weird. That's so random.
I know, but yeah, he's inspired. I mean, it's just such a crazy crime. It's hard not to. The fact that he found willing victims, multiple, and then one actually went through with it.
Yeah, that to me that's the insane part. Is how he actually found people.
After he had cut off Brandy's male appendage, he did end up drugging him a little bit with over-the-counter cough syrup. So it was also argued that Brandy's may have not been in his right mind, and that's why he couldn't maybe escape or get away. Because in interviews, he seems like he doesn't seem super crazy. He's just like, yeah, I want willing people to eat. Okay. I don't know. It's so weird. You'd think he'd look like a monster, but he just looks like a normal dude.
I think the fact that he was probably just so open about it, if once the person said no, I could see him. I could maybe almost see him like joking off, like, "Oh yeah, no, it's just joking. Like it's, uh, well, I'm not going to, you know." Just I feel like maybe he did something like that and covered his tracks. So all those ones that he said he was gonna kill, and they said no, he just played it off like he was joking. Versus how someone's like, "Yeah, I don't mind," and he's like, "Okay," pulling out the knife.
So my next one is The Girl Next Door, and this movie was The Girl Next Door from 2007. So this movie is based on a book by Jack Ketchum, and Jack Ketchum based his book on the story of Sylvia Likens. So The Girl Next Door is about a young girl and her sister who they're kind of left with another family so they can be taken care of while their family goes to travel with the circus. And their family promises to send money to this woman to take care of their children. And it doesn't go well. So there's a lot of players in this game. So let me kind of break it down a little bit. So the mother that takes care of the girls, her name is Gertrude. So it's the family is Gertrude Penshesky. Gertrude has her first oldest is named Paula. Her second oldest is Stephanie, and she has a son named John Jr. They were the main players. She has other younger children, but these are the main players in what happens. And then the other main players are some high school kids and kids in the neighborhood. The main ones are going to be Richard Hobbs and Coy Hubbard. And then the sisters that are left in charge of with Gertrude are Jenny and Sylvia. Sylvia being the older one, Jenny being the younger sister. Jenny had polio, so she walked with a limp, and Sylvia was very protective of her sister. So, this could be the reason why Sylvia became the target of the abuse, was because she was very protective of Jenny, and she would oftentimes take the beatings in place of Jenny because she didn't want Jenny to get hurt. So, there's a lot that goes on. There's a lot to go through. I'm going to try and make this as easy to follow as possible because there's a lot of players in this game. So, Sylvia and Jenny Likens were left in the care of Gertrude. Her family was traveling with the circus and said, if you take care of our daughters, we'll send you $20 a week for room and board and food. um, when those payments, they were making these payments, but sometimes they'd be late. So they'd say, okay, we're going to pay you on Monday. Sometimes the money wouldn't come till Tuesday or Wednesday. And this kind of set Gertrude off because her family essentially lived in poverty. She had many children to take care of. She was a single mother. She was sick herself. They were saying that she had asthma and she had a couple miscarriages. So she had a pretty tough life as well. And then she took on two more kids to take care of. So it was a lot. This is not excusing her behavior, it's just to give you some background of what Gertrude was going through. So for the first week, everything was really normal. Jenny and Sylvia uh, kind of hung out with the kids, listened to albums. This was in like the 50s, so they were probably listening to the Beatles, hanging out. They were going to church. They were having kind of, fun hanging out with these kids. But then the first payment came late, and Gertrude beat the girls with a wooden paddle. She beat them on their bare butt with a wooden paddle, and that was the first signs of abuse. So it's believed that Gertrude may have had some jealousy towards Sylvia because Sylvia was young and pretty, and she had her whole life ahead of her. And Gertrude's life had kind of fallen apart, and she was in poverty and fallen on hard times, and her life just didn't go as it had planned. So they think that might be the reason why.
She did what she did.
Yeah, that's what they think might have contributed to the escalation. While they were having dinner one night, there were a lot of little instances that kind of contributed to this. So, Sylvia would go and buy candy and bring it home to eat it, or bring it to the Gertrude house to eat it. Gertrude would claim that she stole it, and she's like, "I didn't steal this candy. I bought it. It didn't matter." They got into a conversation where Gertrude had asked Sylvia, "Have you ever been with a man?" or a boy or whatever. And Sylvia, not quite understanding what she meant by being with a man, thought like, oh, well, I went skiing with a boy once, or I had a boyfriend one time. So she said, yeah, I've done stuff with boys before, not really understanding what she meant by that. Gertrude had overheard Sylvia telling a story about a time she had laid in bed with her boyfriend. She did not have sex with this boy. She later on, it was found that she was a virgin. So she'd overheard the story. Gertrude got really mad and kind of like this weird built up anger. So they were obviously religious, and Gertrude's oldest daughter, Paula, was actually pregnant at the time. They also think that on top of the jealousy that she had for this girl's beauty, she was kind of taking out her frustrations with her oldest daughter on this young girl because Paula was pregnant and was kind of falling into Gertrude's life as well. She got pregnant really young, didn't have a husband. It was Gertrude was taking it out on Sylvia. So one night they're having dinner, and Gertrude told her family to pass around this hot dog for Sylvia, and they were all adding a bunch of condiments and spices and stuff to this hot dog. And they force fed her this hot dog that had all this like mustard and ketchup and spices on it. And she ate it. She was forced to eat it, and then she threw it up. And they forced her to then eat it again.
I do remember that. I didn't really remember the story, but I remember hearing that.
Yeah, so they forced her to eat it, and this is the only known act of retaliation from Sylvia. She spread a rumor at school that Stephanie and Paula, the oldest daughters, were prostitutes. Someone had brought it up jokingly, like, oh, you're a prostitute. Stephanie 15-year-old boyfriend, well, Stephanie punched Sylvia because of this. She said, don't spread rumors about me, punched her in the face. She told her 15-year-old boyfriend, so her 15-year-old boyfriend came over and beat up Sylvia, and nobody came in to help her. The mom didn't help her, none of the sisters helped her. And after that, he would come over regularly and practice like jujitsu, I guess. He was into that, and he would like use her as a punching bag and a practice thing for that. So he would regularly come over and beat her up. There was one thing where it said Paula beat Sylvia so bad about the face that she broke her wrist. So then Paula would use the cast that she got from her broken wrist to beat Sylvia even more. There were many instances of they felt that she was dirty in body and soul, so they would force her to take scalding hot baths, burn her skin, and she had like open wounds on her skin. So someone reported the open wounds on her skin to the police, and when the police went to go investigate, Gertrude told them that Sylvia was a runaway and that she was a prostitute and that she didn't know where she was. So the police dropped their investigation. Yeah, and I guess the neighbors had like a barbecue or something where they had asked the family, the Baniszewski family, to come over, and Sylvia and Jenny were a part of that. uh, the family noticed that Sylvia had a black eye and had asked, "Hey, like, what happened?" And Paula had said, "Oh, yeah, that was me." Like, she was proud that she had beat up this girl. And I guess she had taken like a scalding hot cup of water and threw it in Sylvia's face, like to show off or for fun in front of this family. So the neighbors knew that Sylvia was being tortured and beat up, but they also didn't.
Just have like that's so sad. The fact that like they saw it and they still didn't say anything, but like in some weird way, it's like I kind of get it because especially if you have a family of your own, you really want to help this individual, but you don't want to be thrown into something you can't get out of either.
And this is also the 1950s, where I know at that time, a lot of kids, they didn't really have like rights. A lot of people didn't, it was just the culture not to get involved in other people's affairs. So this ended up changing some laws. But there were instances where like they would come across, like their family would come visit, mom and dad would come visit, and they were too afraid to tell their parents what was going on. It was also believed that they were under duress. Like Gertrude probably told them, "Hey, if you, especially Jenny, like, hey, if you say anything, you're gonna end up just like Sylvia. So you better keep your mouth shut." And Sylvia, if you say anything, things are gonna get a lot worse for you. So they didn't say anything. The person they did tell was their older sister. I guess they had ran into her at a park on multiple occasions. So they had run into her and told her. The first time she didn't believe it. And then the second time she went over to the house to come check on them, and Gertrude refused to let them in. She was like, "You're not welcome here. You're not allowed to see your sisters. Get the hell out of here." So she went to the police, and again, the police, they couldn't do anything because she was like, "Oh, they ran away. They're prostitutes. They're filthy." Sylvia had taken a lot of beatings to her body and to her crotch. Gertrude used to like to kick her between the legs a lot, and they think this may have led to her being incontinent, so she couldn't hold her pee anymore and she started peeing the bed. It's really pissed off Gertrude, so she ended up tying Sylvia down into the basement. And because she couldn't hold her pee anymore, she pretty much forced her to be naked the whole time. Gertrude would charge the neighborhood boys 5 cents to go down and look at Sylvia naked. And they were allowed to go down there and torture her. They were allowed to kind of do whatever they wanted to her. So they used to like to burn her. They used to put cigarettes out on her. They would humiliate her. It was a terrible, terrible thing. Gertrude and some of her boys would even put Sylvia in a scalding hot bath and like rub salt into her wounds or open wounds. Yeah, there was an instance where they forced Sylvia to eat the contents of a diaper. I guess maybe either Paula had given birth or the youngest son's diaper, because Gertrude had other children, and one of them was like a very small toddler, and they forced her to eat the feces out of a diaper. So they were starving her too, and then the only food they would give her would be like rotten fruit or stuff from the trash. They wouldn't give her water. So she was malnourished and dehydrated down in this basement. There was a situation with a Coke bottle being inserted, that she made her do this in front of a bunch of neighborhood boys to humiliate her. At one point, Gertrude got a sewing needle and heated it up over the stove and carved on her belly, "I'm a prostitute and proud of it," prostitute thing on her belly. And then they decided that they weren't done and they wanted to put an S. They wanted to brand an S under her breast for some reason, so they got a hook, heated it up, and branded her, but they did it backwards. So instead of an S, it was a three. So she had a three branded underneath one of her breasts. It was terrible. There's so much information on this, and it's so awful. She's in really bad shape already. And she tells her sister Jenny, "Look, basically, I know you don't want me to die, but I'm probably gonna die." Because she kind of knew at this point that there's no escaping the situation. And Gertrude, knowing that she's in really bad shape, forced her to write a letter to her parents, basically saying, that she prostituted herself and that she tried to make Gertrude's life a living hell, and that Gertrude needs more money because she destroyed her house, and like all this weird stuff to kind of cover her tracks. So she blamed the state of her body on a group of random boys that she had prostituted herself out to. Um, and at this point, Sylvia finally tries to escape, but she's so malnourished at this point. She was caught and dragged back down into the basement. They force fed her a bunch of like dry crackers, knowing that she was dehydrated, so she couldn't eat it. So they beat her for it.
So sad. It's just so like to me it's so sad and it's just like it's so crazy that it literally feels like a fiction or story. Yeah.
I know it doesn't feel real. So on October 26th, 1950, Sylvia's really lethargic and Gertrude tries to force feed her again some rotten food. It doesn't help. She attempts to escape again, doesn't get out. She doesn't even make it to the front door. She can't even get to the basement door at this point. She's so weak. So Sylvia, she's trying to get out and she gets caught by Gertrude. Gertrude stomps on her head. Sylvia starts acting really lethargic at this point. She isn't stringing sentences together. She can't really move her body. I mean, this has been weeks of beatings and torture. She's got open wounds. Um, she has no food. She's dying, and then she got her head beat in by Gertrude. They think that this might have been a sign of brain damage because she's kind of moving her arms weird. She's not making any sense. They ask her to say her alphabet. She can't. She can only do like the first couple letters and then that's it. So they finally realize that, she's probably dying. So they bathe her and put her in nice clothes and lay her in a bed. Sylvia is in the room with Gertrude's daughter, Stephanie, and Sylvia tells Stephanie, I want my daddy. Can you please take me home? She passes away after that. Tries to give her mouth to mouth. And she was 16 years old when she passed away after all this. After she passed away, yeah, so after she passes away, Gertrude comes into the room and is screaming at Sylvia, get up, you're a faker, you're a liar. And she starts beating her dead body with a book. And then she's starting to realize she's not responding, she's not breathing. And Gertrude tells the kids to call the police. So the police come, and obviously Gertrude had told her family and the neighborhood, whoever was here, because the neighborhood kids had come while Sylvia was dying to come witness her in that state because they had some kind of fucked up. So she trained everybody. This is what you say. She's a prostitute. She's a runaway. Some random boys that she was selling her body to did this to her. When the whole time Gertrude was the one selling her body, you know, having kids pay 5 cents to come in and torture her and do all these nasty, telling her to put a Coke bottle inside her in front of everybody. So it's it's awful. She's the worst. I don't even have words to describe it.
Yeah, no. It was just it's horrible. Like it's just absolute like to me it's I know the people I'd mentioned, I'm like, they were all like horrible, but at the same time, I feel like not to justify uh, the other serial killers or the other like people I've killed, but I'm like, it's just insane. It's especially I think what kind of like blows my mind is the fact that it's like you have kids yourself. Like that's where I'm just like I can't believe this. I'm like because it's literally you're a parent and you're doing this to someone else's child, which has and the sad part is like you said, it's just because she was beautiful. It's like so you're really hating this person because it just so happens that she's pretty. That has nothing to do with her at all. That was just the card she was dealt.
Yeah, it was factors of things. It was because she was young, she had her whole life ahead of her. Her Gertrude's oldest daughter was pregnant. She was probably taking out that frustration on Sylvia. The money thing, even though the family was sending money, it was late and she was getting pissed off about that. Like, I understand she was living in poverty, but she was still getting the money. Like, you can't really control the postal service, especially back then, so the police come. Yeah, so the police come. The kids say this bullshit story or whatever, and in front of Gertrude, Jenny also repeats the story that she's told to say. But she gets a chance alone with an officer, and she says, "If you take me out of this house, I'll tell you everything." So the police are like, okay. So they take her out and she tells the story of what the torture of her sister. And so people were yeah, so people, I mean, the state of her body, like they had to know that this wasn't I met up with a boy and this is what he did to me. She was malnourished, like she had open wounds all over her. It was obvious. But Jenny told her story. So, Sylvia's funeral, from what I've read, they said that it was open casket so people could see her, and I think that was probably to if it was open cast, it was probably to show people what happened to her. And it said that it was attended by over 100 people. But in the aftermath, Gertrude Baniszewski was sentenced to life in prison, but she was granted parole in 1985. During her time in prison, she had become known as a prison mom. So all the other prisoners called her mom because she took care of everybody in prison. Yeah, so she ended up getting parole in 1985 and she died of lung cancer in 1990 at age 61. And again, I hope that was the most painful death because you deserve the absolute fucking worst for what you did, you piece of shit. Like, I hope she choked on that cancer. Like, ugh, what a terrible person. Um, so Paula, her oldest daughter, the one who was pregnant, was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to life. Paula got a retrial and was released in December of 1972. So this is crazy. She got a job as a school counselor. This was the same girl that was helping her mother torture and essentially kill a young girl. Got out of prison in the 70s and got a job as a school counselor's aide.
Yeah, imagine the information she's giving those kids.
What a career choice. What a career choice. That's crazy. So the school finally found out in 2012.
Really? That long?
Yeah. So in 2012, she was finally found out, and they're like, oh my God, you tortured a young girl. We should probably fire you. And that's what happened. She got fired. Um, I don't have any information after that. I'm sure she probably passed away by now. Um, so and then the sons and two neighborhood kids. So the two neighborhood kids are Richard Hobbs and Coy Hubbard. They would help bathe Sylvia in hot water and salt, and they would beat her, and they participated, put like lit cigarettes out on her skin. Um, and then her son John Jr. was part of this. These three got sentenced to manslaughter and were sentenced to 2 to 25 years. All three of these boys only served less than 2 years in prison for what they did. So Richard Hobbs died of lung cancer at 21. Again, I hope you suffered. And I'm glad you died at 21 because you didn't deserve any life after that. uh, Coy was arrested multiple times and was acquitted of a double murder in 1977. He was acquitted, so they didn't have enough evidence against him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did that. And he died in 2007 at 56 from a heart attack. So, yes. And then, so John Jr., um, he later in life agreed that they did not get a good enough sentence. He believed that they deserved more time behind bars for what they had done. So he seemed maybe more remorseful. He was also a little bit younger. I think he was like 10 or 12 or something like that. So he was one of the younger ones. And he died in 2005 of diabetes, and he was 56. Um, and then, so the charges against Stephanie, who is the second youngest daughter, were dropped after she kind of agreed to give evidence to the prosecutor for this case. Um, and she also gave Sylvia mouth to mouth, so maybe she was kind of starting to realize like the ramifications and like the horror of what was going on. I don't know. Um, but again, she became a teacher. Yeah, after seeing the horror and participating in it, how do you want to be a teacher? I don't understand, but she became a teacher. She was never charged, so she had a clean slate. She became a teacher and had two kids, and her last known whereabouts were in Florida somewhere. And there's no information on her after that. So, and then the final person I have is Jenny, which is the youngest sister of Sylvia Likens. So Jenny Likens would grow up and would end up marrying and having her own children, but she was forever traumatized by what she had been through. She spent her life on anti-anxiety medication, and um, she would constantly update her family, her parents, when someone from who, like someone who had tortured her sister had died. She would send the news clipping to her family and be like, "Oh, finally, this person died too," um, type of thing. Yeah, but she passed away in 2004 at 54 of a heart attack. And the home where all this torture happened was demolished in 2009 after nobody wanted to touch it. There was rumors that, or there was plans that it was going to become a woman's home for battered women, but I guess the funds never materialized, so they ended up demolishing it. So, not only is this a movie, The Girl Next Door for 2007, but there's also one called American Crime, which is about her torture, and Elliot Page plays Sylvia in that movie. Yeah, but this was one of those movies. I read the book by Jack Ketchum, The Girl Next Door, and I had a hard time getting through it because, it's the terrible thing that happened. It was horrible. I barely got through the book. I did not make it through the movie. I'm gonna admit that. I was like, nah, once she got into the basement, I'm like, I cannot I cannot watch this anymore. This is awful. And they too left some stuff out. But it was too close. It's too real. I'd rather just watch a movie about a werewolf than about someone who tortures children. Uh, yeah, so that was The Girl Next Door. It was a heavy one.
So my last one I was gonna talk about was Ed Gein. My last one is horrible, but at the same time I feel like so many fictional movies have made about it that has kind of like watered it down. It was the one that inspired the fictional movie serial killers as Norman Bates in Psycho, Leatherface in this Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. So a majority of people would have heard of all three or at least one or two of those movies. What he did was the best reference I would say is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, how there's Leatherface. That's what he would do. He would find people and he basically would skin them and use their skin, either wear it or make furniture out of it. One of the craziest things that I saw when I was looking through his pictures was the fact that he used a human spine for a light post. And the shade for the light was like faces and body parts. And not even that, he would eat them. He would eat the people too. Eat the organs. And this all happened in about 1950s, 1957. And he killed one of the people he killed was Bernice Warden in Plainfield. He was known as the Butcher of Plainfield. And when the police came into his home, that's when they obviously found out that there's something definitely wrong with this guy. Like this dude's 77, so he's old. And when they go in there, they start looking around and their eyes adjust, and that's when they start seeing that he has bodysuits of people, his furniture, couch, lights. I think one time when you and I were talking about he had the nipple belt. I didn't even know about that. Like,
Nipple belt. Yeah, the nipple belt.
yeah, like it's it was insane. It's like so this he was very not to like throw jokes, but I'm like he was very crafty. I have to say that like he did not waste any parts. He did not discriminate against either. And it's just insane that from him a lot of people know him is because of the branched off from those three movies. Like everyone makes fun of Buffalo Bill. They're like, "Oh yeah, you put the lotion on the skin." Is the best quote from the Buffalo Bill over there, and it's like, holy crap, that guy is modeled off some some real person.
Yeah, and the fact that he had full bodysuits of people's skin, like he had people onesies, which is crazy.
Yeah, people onesies.
I don't know how else to put it. He made full bodysuits.
That yeah, it's like Leatherface and Buffalo Bill like joining and becoming one. I feel like those are probably the most based off them because Norman Bates, like well, that his fictional character, he was just a little cray cray, but he was just more so stalking cray cray. But yeah, like Leatherface and Buffalo Bill, I feel like those were probably the closest if you want to kind of know how this guy was. It's probably the closest you're gonna get without doing the research and actually looking him up yourself. How he ended up dying. He got institutionalized until death in '84 at 77. He died in prison. Probably what he probably wasn't that healthy either, knowing that he was eating bodies, wearing their suits. That was my that was my last one. It was just the fact that he oh and he also on top of collecting people, skinning them, eating them, and wearing them, making accessories out of them. He was known for grave robbers. So that's the whole thing is they didn't.
I was gonna say, didn't he dig up graves too? He liked all the bodies. He liked fresh ones, graves, all of them.
Yeah, he yeah exactly. They said some of the unsolved cases. They were like, who's digging up these graves? So he sometimes you know what he went to the funeral. He saw the person had a good looking suit,
Oh my God.
literally body suit, and took them.
It's so dark. That's so dark.
It is so dark, but like I feel like as dark as it is, it's just like you can't like kind of in your last story, it's just like, oh my god, I can't believe this shit happened. Then you come to this old dude and you're like, what? Like you're taken back because at least when if you would watch those fictional movies, you're like, wait a second, this stuff is real? Like this stuff actually stemmed off somebody that was this incredibly insane?
This is gonna sound like a sick question, but I wonder what his house smelled like. Because he had like arts and crafts of human bodies like scattered throughout his house. He had lampshades, he had stuff on his couch, he had people suits, like he had belts made out of nipples, like he had all this weird stuff, and he still had some bodies in his garage, I believe, when the police came. I can't imagine how his home smelled.
Um, well, since they called him the butcher of Plainfield, I wonder if it's because he he knew how to actually. I wonder. I don't know because I couldn't really find on there. I wonder if he like washed them. You know, like when you skin an animal after hunting, you wash it. You know, and make the rug or whatever. I wonder if that's what he did. If he actually washed the body and washed the skin.
So it says that Ed Gein was a handyman and a laborer. So,
Man, he was definitely handing out something.
I mean, yeah, he was crafty. I'll give him that.
That what I found was fashionable clothing and accessories. I don't know what kind of fashionable clothing they're talking about. It was a human body, human skin. What kind? But they call that fashionable. I don't know. I don't know who wrote the article. And I looked it up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy was crazy. And it's crazy on how many serial killers that not even that these fictional movies are mention him and are based off him. I feel like sometimes even when they talk about other serial killers, they link him in there. Like this guy was just like the Hollywood of serial killers.
Well, it's just so shocking. I mean, how many serial killers make lamps out of their victims' bodies? So I can see why he'd be. I mean, it's so horrifying, it's hard for him not to be an inspiration to scare other people. That's why he's influenced so many horror movies, just because it's just so out of left field, you know?
Yeah, he sounds like a fictional character that it's that insane.
And it's the same thing with the cannibal, the German cannibal. Why he inspired so many people was because he really wanted to eat somebody and somebody was willing to let him eat him. So it's like, it's just such a weird thing to happen.
That everyone is our sum up of serial killers and Hollywood Hollywood movies.
Yeah, hopefully we didn't traumatize you too much. You hope so.
Really want you guys. We really want you guys to come back and watch more of our videos. We don't want this to be the last one to traumatize you. All right, everyone. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.